Welcome into episode 463 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue, Scott McLaughlin, and of course, we are once again joined by Bridget's best friend. That is Harold the Golden Giraffe. I don't know how much airtime he's going to get today, but there he is. And
he has a plate now. I don't know if you noticed that. I got him a golden plate, and so now he can also. I feel like he probably needed the tray to begin with, but it might be a little bit more useful than the bowl. Except for popcorn. So
yeah, nice. I was gonna say the bowl serves the most important function. It holds popcorn.
Well, now he can do everything. So every party he's gonna be, he's just gonna be hosting.
So a nice little addition there to Bridget's new statue. Bridget, let's throw it to you first for the opening shifts.
All right, guys. So we're at the point in the summer where it's like sometimes there's like these little fun stories rather than news stories, I guess. And I have two real quick ones before we get to you guys have some deeper thinking questions, even though I'm not sure what Scott's is yet.
I don't know I don't know if mine's deeper thinking.
Okay.
But we'll get
it. Well, my two quick ones. So Porter Martone is committed to play college hockey. He decided to sign on with Michigan State. So that's another one of those top 10 picks in this year's NHL draft that are going to be playing college hockey. And that's a school that was interested in a few of the big name guys, but end up getting Porter Martone. And once again, no news on any of the other rumors about some of the top 10 guys that were rumored to maybe want to come to Hockey East. I haven't heard anything new on that front. But then my other one is James Higgins got to go meet Adam Sandler yesterday. Happy Gilmore 2 premiered, and Higgins is just living his best life right now. He's just having a great time. He said that Happy Gilmore is his favorite movie and Adam Sandler is his favorite actor. So that, I don't know about you guys, but I'd be pretty psyched to meet my favorite actor. I want to know, who's you guys' favorite actor?
Ooh.
That's a loaded question.
Do you need me to go first? Because I know my answer.
I know your answer too, but yeah, you can go first.
Okay. He knows my answer because I bring it up all the time. I love Will Ferrell, and I know that doesn't count as a dramatic actor, but he makes me laugh. Yeah. So he's my favorite in pretty much everything he does.
It's in the same vein as Sandler, so that. Yeah, it can be a comedian. That works. Mm-hmm.
I have a couple. I have a couple off the top of my head. I think Sandler is obviously a good comedian one. I think growing up until the Oscars moment, I did like a lot of Will Smith's movies, but I think Denzel Washington, Robert De Niro, those two. Anytime there was a movie with them in it, I would always sit down and watch it.
Yeah, again, pretty easy answer, but Leonardo DiCaprio, I think I've liked him in every single thing he's done. Even movies he's done where the movie wasn't very good, I've always liked his performance. I don't know if that this is one of those things where it feels like I should have an easy answer like Bridget does, but because I watch a bajillion movies, but it probably changes a lot. There's times you could get me, and it would be Robert De Niro. So Denzel's a good one. That's up there. Definitely Will Ferrell, in the comedy space, no question. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know that I have a set answer, but for today, I guess I'll go with DiCaprio.
And I want to add John Krasinski. So.
Yeah, well, Steve Carell's. I've always loved Steve Carell.
Yeah.
There really are so many. It just depends what you're talking about. But anyway, yeah. What was your opening shift again?
That was my important, really hard thinking question, you guys. So so Scott, I think it's your turn.
So did you guys watch the Red Sox game last night, Monday night?
No.
I was listening to it on the radio, and I did hear the ending of the game on the radio.
So it ended in pretty much the lamest way possible, which was...
Oh, I know what happened, yeah.
Extra innings, bottom of the 10th, bases were loaded, and Red Sox catcher Carlos Narvaez committed catcher interference. The hitter caught his glove on a check swing, not even on a full swing. and the game ended on a walk-off catcher's interference that had to be called after a review. And I was like, that has to be the lamest way for a baseball game to end. And it got me thinking, what would be the lamest way for a hockey game to end?
Are we talking like playoffs or regular season? Does it matter? Because like in the playoffs, it would end instantly, say if it was overtime, like an instant game ender. You mean like that?
Yeah, I mean, like anything, just like the worst, where you'd be like, I get that that's the rule, but man, that's a really stupid way for a game to end.
Yeah, I would say it has to be in overtime. Let's make the scenario be in overtime.
Yeah, it's tough to draw a perfect comparison, obviously, because in baseball now you start with a runner on second, which kind of changes the dynamics. But I think for me, it's always been a game ending in overtime or the last, minutes of regulation where a team's in the power play due to a puck over the glass.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That one's like, it's like you get it. It is what it is. It's the rule, but never liked it.
Yeah, it has to be like mildly self-inflicted, but also kind of just like a nothing play that's like really wouldn't normally help too much. But yeah, or like any like stupid, like very minor thing. Like, I don't know, maybe you challenge something late and it doesn't go your way and then you get scored on immediately. Maybe like there was a fight and someone gets the instigator when they shouldn't have, and then the other team scores on you and they win. Those are always the most frustrating when it's like, well, how the hell did this guy get the instigator? And it should have been, it should have either been matching or, but the refs would come into play a little bit there.
Yeah, I was also thinking, and this didn't end a game, but I was thinking like if a game ever ended this way, remember the playoff game Bruins Blue Jackets where the Blue Jackets scored, but the puck had gone out of play. Yep. But so at that time you couldn't review it. Now you can, but it still has to be like it has to be in the direct build up to a goal. So basically, like the first or second touch after it hits the netting. So I can see like a play like that where it's like no one knows where the puck is, and it kind of like pinballs around and somehow ends up in the net, and it's just like confusion. And then like if you were to look at it after and you're like, oh, that puck went out of play, like that would be like a really dumb way for a game to end.
The first thing I thought of, which it's not comparable for a few reasons, but the first thing I thought of when you said the dumbest way a game could end would be like an own goal, or like you accidentally say it's the last minute of the game and you're trying to score or whatever, you have the goalie pulled and you accidentally like score in your own net, or like the Allmark one behind the goal, like he just comes out to play the puck, there's no goalie in the net. Like those ones are always. Those are rough. But they're not comparable because they're like big mistakes rather than like a really small, like marginal thing.
I was gonna say it didn't end a game, but the funniest way a game got to overtime. Do you remember? I think it was Oilers Stars, and I forget the player, but it was an Oilers player who missed an open net, like just like nonchalantly came down all by himself on an open net and like lost the puck. And then the Stars went down and scored and tied it with like 1 second left.
I think it was the other way around.
Was it a Stars?
I think his name may have been Stefan Pete.
Maybe, yeah. That sounds.
But he played for Dallas, and I believe Alice Hemsky was the one who scored for the Oilers to tie it. But that was. Yeah.
You're right. It was Patrick Stefan who missed it.
Who's Stefan Pete? Why is that name in my? Is that even a real person?
Stephen Pete was a fighter. He was one of the famous PJ Stock fights.
Oh, that must be what I was saying. So what was the Stars player's name?
Patrick Stefan.
Okay, yeah. I think the puck it just like hopped over his blade as he was about to backhand it. Yeah. But it is one of those things where it's a tough break for him because it's not. Yeah, he was going nonchalant, but it's not like he like missed the net. The puck hopped over his stick. Yeah, he should have shot it earlier, no doubt. But you see players do that all the time. They just kind of guide it in. But yeah, Scott, that was interesting. I think puck over the glass is probably the one that is most comparable, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was frustrating last night for the Red Sox because First of all, they just absolutely made nothing of their opportunity in the top of the 10th. You can't have a guy on second and then just go down 1-2. That just can't happen. And then, yeah, so I actually like the extra innings rules of a base runner starting. The last night was the one time where I was like, oh man, I mean that just kind of the bases were loaded because there was a guy on second and then there was a pass. But it was the whole inning was just ugly as
Yeah,
hell.
it was a mess, and like they were gonna lose anyways. It was bases loaded, no outs. Like
Yeah.
Phillies just had to get one in, but
Yeah.
still, to have it end that way though was it was just like really like we can't just do like a do over or something. Like
Right. Exactly. All right. My opening shift last week. Again, it's midsummer, and my brain is just trying to think of some fun Bruins hockey conversations we can have while we pass the time until training camp. But um, I asked Bruins fans online what their all-time Bruins lineup would be. Scott talked about it last episode. He mentioned that I asked it. All 5 positions, skater positions, and then a goaltender. And of course, the challenge here, because it's obvious, it is obvious to be someone who says, well, Bork and Orr as your defense. And for the record, that would be my defense too. But I wanted to also just mention, are you putting out the top 5 players in the franchise's history, or are you accounting for potential chemistry or fit, right? So it was a prompt I put out there, and there was a lot of fun answers. And Scott, I think you may have an answer of your own.
yeah, I just like loved thinking about this because it got me back in the mindset of 2 years ago when we did the Centennial team and that whole celebration. And you're right. Like there's a couple different ways to look at it because one, I think that you do want to try to stick to positions. So like on defense, it's like, okay, you can say lefty. I think your tweet even had it like left defense, right defense. Well, Bobby Orr and Ray Bourque are both left shots who played a lot on the right. Bobby Orr played more on the right than the left during his career. And Bourque, I know, played both sides at different times. So like you can easily do that pairing, say Borg left or right if you want, which I think is ultimately the way to go. Like, yeah, you can make an argument for, you could say like, would Zdeno Chara work better with one of those guys? Or if you wanted to go way, way back to like Eddie Shore, but for the most part, it's like Orr and Bork are at worst 2 of the 3 best defensemen ever. I would argue they're the 2 best ever. So, like, don't overthink it. Just go with those guys. I'll save goaltending because that might be the most interesting or the toughest. Center. So I saw a lot of people reply to you with Bergeron as the guy locked in there. I gotta say, I think I'd go Phil Esposito. Like, I think his peak, like his best years to me, I think were better than Bergeron's. Obviously, different players. Esposito way more of a goal scorer. Bergeron, arguably the best defensive center ever. So arguments to be made there. Left wing is really interesting because if you're just looking at like career totals, it's like, oh, obviously it'd be Johnny Busick. I think you can argue that Marchand had a better peak though. Like I think you could argue that Marchand at his best was better than Busick at his best. Maybe with the exception of one season for Busick. I think the 70-71 season he had, 116 points. But other than that, like Busick was really good for a long time, but generally not one of the very best in the league. Marchand at his peak was one of the 5 best players in the league. So I might go that. And then right wing, again, like do you go Cam Neely, David Pastrnak? Those are probably the 2 you're debating. And that would have been, Neely for a long time would have been the easy answer. I think Pasternak's passing him if he hasn't already. I mean, what Pasternak's doing is scoring at a rate that only Phil Esposito has ever done. Like Phil Esposito is the only player in Bruins history that has scored like Pastrnak has been scoring the last 6 years. So 6-7 years. So
yeah, and when we had Esposito on, which we did, was it 2 years ago? Was it?
I think it was last year.
Yeah,
maybe like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, the early part of the season, and he was like, I don't care if he passes my record, that's fine. Like he was, he was not going to be trying to hold on to that forever, but yeah, he was a good guest. I think, I don't know if people even heard that, because I don't know how many people who are listening now, but it'll be interesting to revisit those comments that he made when Pasta does break some of his records, and go back and like listen to what he said about it. And but yeah, he said he'd be happy for him. So
Yeah, that's an interesting lineup, Scott, and yeah, it's if you're really being steadfast in positions, right? It is tough to. I mean, Esposito versus Bergeron at center, you feel guilty for choosing either one of them, right?
Right.
It's that tough of a call, but maybe perhaps you could convince somebody to have Esposito play left wing, Bergeron center, and then right wing is maybe Cam Neely, and you have a line of the ultimate two-way center, the ultimate power forward, and the ultimate finisher, and maybe they complement each other well. But as you said, if we're talking just right wing for right wing, I mean David Pastrnak is he's going to go down if he's on pace to be the greatest goal scorer in the franchise's history. He's already at 29 years old. I think he's already seventh in the franchise's all-time scoring list, or maybe eighth. But he's going to be passing people this year too. So it's a fun question to ask. And for those that are listening, definitely tweet at us your lineups or comment on YouTube what your all-time Bruins lineup would be. Bridge, I don't know if you had thoughts on that either, but
well, I mean, you guys said a lot of it, but we did not settle on a goalie.
oh right, of course. Scott, what was your goalie in mind?
So I saw a lot of people say Rask, but again, I guess I'm kind of looking at this as like who would be best at their best. And so for me, it'd be either Tim Thomas or Frank Brimzik. If you went like way back, Frank Brimzik was one of the great goalies of the early NHL, won 2 cups with the Bruins. Had the nickname Mr. Zero, which is one of the all-time great nicknames.
So wait a minute. Was this before helmets? Like before goalies wore helmets?
Yeah.
Because give him bonus points.
He wasn't wearing, goalies weren't even wearing masks at that point.
Yeah, no. He gets bonus points for that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, no one was shooting off the ice, so like there wasn't as much danger of getting hit other than really by sticks. But I think I would go Tim Thomas. I think his peak was the best peak of any goalie in Bruins history, and for a few years, like one of the best stretches we've seen in the modern NHL. If you look at what he did, call it 08 to 11, like it's not just everyone's always going to go to the 2011 Cup run, and rightfully so, because he was obviously incredible that postseason, unbelievable in the finals. But really, that stretched across multiple years. I mean, he won the Vezina in 09 as well, and was incredible that season.
Oh, Brian.
Sorry, muted myself there. I'm curious, Scott, what his underlying advanced metrics were during like the 06, 07 season too, like when the team around him was junk. Obviously, he gave up a lot of goals because the team sucked, but I'm wondering, like, where his numbers bad because of the team in front of him, or if he had to, you know what I mean? I mean, he had that infamous save on Marty St. Louis, that stick paddle save. That was in the 06, 07 season. I think Dale Arnold was on that call. So obviously, one save over the course of a year doesn't mean he had a great season overall. But I wonder if he would have been, what his numbers would have been that year if the team was better around him as well. But yeah, certainly that 07 to 08 to the Cup season, and then even the year after they won the Cup, 11-12. He was the starting goaltender for the Bruins in the Capital Series. Too good to not have the net until the 2012-2013 season, and Timmy was gone by then. Of course, Tuukka had the net in the 2010 playoffs, but Timmy won the net back obviously the following year. So yeah, fun question.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts?
I guess if you're listening or you're watching on YouTube, comment your lineup if you have any differences. I'm sure you got some sarcastic ones, but to your
oh yeah, there were some fun
Twitter,
ones. Someone, it was tongue in cheek, but someone gave a lineup of like it was like a starting five, tough guy starting five. It was like, it was Thornton and Lucic and all, all sorts of McQuaid. It was but then there were some that appeared to be, honestly, they appeared to be genuine. But I just think they were talking more about players they grew up watching, because there was a couple that had like Nick Boynton on the blue line, but also but in the same lineup you had like Joe Thornton and Samsonov. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is just like a very late 90s centric Bruins fan.
That's the Bruins all-time lineup from 99 to 02.
Exactly.
Just those years.
A little smaller.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like Nick Boynton, he wore his heart in his sleeve, but I mean, yeah, not making anybody's. I don't even know if he was a top 100 Bruins, Scott. I don't think he was.
No, he was not.
He may have been in the top maybe 200. I don't know, but hey.
I was thinking about this though too, because like when I saw this, I went back and revisited some of the Centennial stuff. So this was 2 years ago, and so they didn't release like a top 100 ranking. They released the top 100 list, but when we voted on that, we had to actually rank 1 to 100. And I had 2 years ago, I had Pastrnak 19th. And I was thinking, like, just in the 2 years since what he's done these last 2 years, like, he's going to be pushing top 10 now. Like, he's already kind of like right on that doorstep. Like, I was thinking, like, I had Krejci 14th. He's definitely ahead of Krejci. Like, I think he's already past Krejci. I know Krejci won a cup and had the playoff performance, so like you could at least make the argument for him to stick. But like realistically, like Pasternak's already, better than Krejci. And again, to your point about where he is on the all-time rankings in franchise history, assuming he stays healthy this year, he's gonna pass Orr and Middleton on the points list, move up to 6th. Goals, if he scores 40 goals this season, he will be 3rd all time in Bruins history in goals. Like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like crazy to think about. Like, he's gonna jump Bork, Middleton, Marchand, and Bergeron all this season.
Yeah, I wrote
and you know what? I just to add in like a little bit of forward looking. Like, if he gets the C and becomes like this leader next season, and it seems to be successful, and there's a bit of a turnaround, and you watch him grow in that way, like there's a little bit of extra I guess ammo for the conversation of him having this more of a complete view of a good player in franchise history. And anyone who wears a C is automatically going to get a little bit of extra respect, and if he can do it well, then that's just going to add to his he'll just keep jumping up that list if he continues to perform the way he has been, and if he also becomes a leader on top of it.
So to that point, Bridget, so last summer, and how many goals did Pastrnak get last year? It was like 41 or something in the 40s maybe, but last
43
goals last year. Okay, so this is before that performance. So this is last summer, or this is actually last July. I wrote an article about Pastrnak chasing history as the Bruins' leading goal scorer in franchise history, and what that would look like. And so at the time, he had let's see. He was 197 goals behind Johnny Bucyk heading into last year. Okay, so that's obviously been significantly decreased as well. And basically the numbers that I came up with was that Pastrnak heading into last year had 348 goals. Johnny Bucyk had 545. If Pastrnak would pass Johnny Bucyk as the Bruins all-time leading goal scorer, if he averaged 50 goals for the next 4 years, 40 goals for the next 5 years, or 33 goals for the next 6 years. So last year he had 43 goals. So, theoretically he should pass Johnny Bucyk, I would say, in the next probably 4 seasons or so, which he's 29 years old. I mean, that's absolutely feasible. The only asterisk here is if he somehow is not on the Bruins, right? Then they wouldn't count those goals that he scores somewhere else. But he should be the Bruins leading goal scorer in about 4 seasons, I would say.
Yeah, he's 154 behind Busick. So yeah, like that should be probably by the end of the decade, as long as he stays here.
Pretty impressive stuff. Pretty impressive. Okay, so we did want to get to a mailbag for this episode as well, and we want to thank you all for sending in your questions. Bridget, do you have the sheet up right now?
Yes, I do. And one of them was about pasta, if we want to start there.
Sure.
We got this is from George McElroy. I think I'm saying it right. I think I've messed this up last time too.
No, you got it right last time because George followed up on YouTube and said it was pronounced correctly.
Okay, great. He commented on our YouTube. What do you think about Pastrnak getting the C and that spurring him to have a career year? Which comes from a question. We did superlatives last episode, and one of the superlatives was who's most likely to have a career year. I think we settled on Morgan Geekie. But we, do you think that getting the C on the jersey would have an extra motivational push for David Pastrnak to maybe have a career year as well?
So I think it would impact him in the sense that like he would take a lot of pride in it and it would mean something to him. The only problem with it, like spurring him on to a career year, is, I mean, he's just been doing incredibly impressive stuff already, and like without say like another star caliber player on his line, I don't know how much higher he can go on this team. Now, listen, if the power play gets going, then maybe that's where he makes it up, right? Like maybe his 5-on-5 production is still exceptional, which it was last year. He was one of the best 5-on-5 producers in the NHL. And then maybe if you tack on a good power play that finds its footing, yeah, maybe he can, he's had 106 points last year regardless. Maybe that could push him past his career high of 113. So yeah. It's not impossible.
I just want to say what the numbers are that he would have to pass. So 61 goals 2 years ago was his highest goal total, and then 113 points also 2 years ago was his highest point total. So that's what he would have to clear, and that's a high bar. That's why we didn't ultimately pick him as the most likely, because he has set the bar really high for himself already.
Yeah, and like if you look at it, so his power play points that year, he had 37 points on the power play that season, 22-23. Last year, he had 23 power play points. So, like, that's a difference of 14 points right there. So, yeah, like, to me, that's where the ground would have to get made up. And I guess, we'll see. We'll see if this new coaching staff and, a recommitment from the players on the ice gets the power play going.
No, Brian, you got to be better with your mute.
I don't know what's going on today. Last year too, we've talked about, but he got off to a slow start. I mean, the first couple of months of the year, he was, I think we had an episode around sometime in like late November, maybe early December, before he really started to take off, where he was like 64th in the league in scoring. And we kept saying, we know it's early, but boy, it's going to be tough. And I think he finished top 5 again in scoring. So that was, and we know how bad last year's team was pre-deadline, post-deadline, specifically on special teams. Their special teams were brutal all year, even before they sold off, Marchand and Coyle and others. So, to Scott's point, like if the power play is better, which it really should be better, it's tough to get any worse. And then if he gets off to a bit of a better start, yeah, I mean, it's possible. As Scott said, it's possible to eclipse his 22-23 career highs. What's interesting here, though, looking at his totals, do you know how many games Pastrnak has missed in the last 3 seasons?
It's not a lot.
I believe it's 0.
It's 0.
Okay.
He's played a full 82 game slate the last 3 seasons. So, it's on the one hand, it makes me feel great because it's, he's able to stay healthy. On the other hand, it kind of makes me nervous about, how long does that string of health continue? Because they need him to be. Without him, this team they really will be having the highest odds for McKenna. So, but yeah, that's good on him. It speaks to his leadership ability to be able to stay on the ice every game. The last 3 years, I know injuries. It's bad luck, right? And it doesn't make someone a bad, like Charlie McAvoy, for example. He's not a bad leader because he got hurt last year, but it does allow you to lead more from the front when you're around, when you're available. And so he's had that luxury the last couple of years, especially in a time of transition for the Bruins, because 2 of those 3 years is post Bergeron, right? So yeah, I think being the captain can help him have maybe lead him to a career year. The flip side, because we always have to look at both sides of the story, is that the C on a sweater also comes with maybe added pressure from within. Maybe he puts more pressure on himself, and sometimes that's not. Sometimes it's easy for players to play a little bit more free. That's just
Yeah.
something worth mentioning as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, maybe it almost distracts him from his own game, where if you're the captain and you're so focused on helping everyone else around you, sometimes, like, can your own game slip? Like, that's a balance that great leaders have to find. And even though Pastrnak has been wearing a letter, having the C is a different responsibility. We talked about it with Marchand. Like, he even admitted it. I think at times he struggled with that balance. So there would be like a feeling out there too, where if that is how this plays out, I'm sure Pastrnak would have to adjust and find a balance of things, and you're always gonna have to figure that stuff out on the fly. Like, you don't know until you get there, right? Like, as captain, how do you handle the first time the team slumps? Like that, you can't. You can think you're ready for it, but you don't really know until you get there. How do you handle the first time you slump? Like, all of those types of things. So
And how do you handle like younger new? Because like honestly, this team is still relatively new to getting to know each other. Besides that line, like there's so many new players that were added at the deadline and in free agency this year that the chemistry isn't built in. So there's young guys, there's new guys. How do you get everybody to come together? That's another role of a captain. So.
All right, Bridget, do you want to go to the next question?
Yeah, I'm going to go back up to the top, and thank you to everyone who emailed us. Scott went through and grabbed everything off of our skate pod email, and I'll start with Kelly. Kelly says, "Hi guys, I have a trade proposal. Bruins get Marco Rossi. Minnesota gets our first round pick in 2026, and Casey Mittelstadt. He's from Minnesota, and the money we free up will be able to sign Rossi. Maybe sweeten the pot with a second rounder if we had to." Great show. Keep it up. Thank you, Kelly.
I am not doing that if I'm the Bruins. I'm not giving up their own 2026 first round pick unless it's for something truly special. Because as we've talked about, you might be bad enough that pick is your shot at Gavin McKenna. And there is no way I'm trading it for a Marco Rossi caliber player. I like Marco Rossi. I'm interested if the price were right, but to me, that is not the right price. It's gotta be less than that. Maybe I entertain Toronto or Florida's first round pick because that's not going to be in the lottery. Those are going to be playoff teams. But if I'm trading my own 2026 first round pick, which as we sit here now, at least has a shot of being Gavin McKenna or Keaton Vierhoff, throw him into that conversation. The only way I'm moving that is for something truly special.
I agree with that. I think in my mind right now, I think the Bruins' own first round pick next year is pretty much untouchable if I'm Boston. Just for all the reasons Scott mentioned, I think that when it comes to the 26th pick Boston received from Toronto, the 27th pick Boston received from Florida, Scott mentioned they're going to be playoff teams, and they will be. So you could pencil either of those picks in probably as a bottom, let's call it a bottom 12 pick in the draft, because I don't think that Florida or Toronto will be a wild card seed. I think they'll be. I think they'll probably have top 10 finishes or close to it, right? So now one of those picks I would move for Martin Necas, for example, a trade for Martin Necas, I would include. I would probably only move that Toronto 26 pick for Necas. I don't even know if I would do it for anybody besides him. At least that's out there in active trade rumors, or could be. Like Mason McTavish is somebody who has been asked about. Maybe even it will be asked about today. Jordan Kyrou is another one. When
I think I would do it for Kyrou too. I think I'd include him in, if maybe not quite in the tier of Necas, like close enough that I'd be open to it.
But not, you're still saying not your own pick.
Not Boston's. I mean,
what would it take for you to give up that pick? Just like to change the question a little.
I mean, like, I just don't know if there's a player out there that would be worth giving up, because literally, as Scott mentioned, this Bruins hypothetically could finish 8th or 9th from the bottom. And we've seen the lottery can do crazy things. So even if the Bruins aren't the 32nd team in the standings and they finish 29th or they finish 26th, man, after what I saw last year with not just the Islanders, but also Utah moving up from 14th to 4, even if it's not Gavin McKenna that you end up having the opportunity to draft, this draft class is very, very prominent.
Yeah, I mean, you could still end up. I mean, there's the lottery continues to the second pick too, right? Like those are the two that you have a chance at, and then everything else falls with highest order left. But Scott and I were there this year sitting around, and like they gave us a sheet of paper that had all of the Bruins numbers that if it came up, and like me and Sophia were sitting there and just like looking at it and be like, oh no, like or like, oh, they need a 9, and then it wasn't happening. But yeah. It'll be even more nerve-wracking if you're in that situation next year and you're trying to get
or even if you are 13, 14, like Utah won the lottery from the 14 spot. Now they could only move up 10, so they only got to 4. But like you have a chance to do that as well. And even I mean this draft, like it's not really worth going too much into the names, but even like I'm just looking at Chris Peters' like way too early rankings, and like Ivar Stenberg got a Sweden at 3, Ryan Rubrek at 4. Like those would be extremely high end prospects even after McKenna and Veerhoff. Like it's considered next year's draft as of now is considered like a good deal better than this year's at the top.
Yeah, unless the the Edmonton Oilers are looking to trade Connor McDavid, or Vegas is looking to trade Jack.
We got a question about that.
We do.
Oh, do we? Then I'm not moving that 26 Bruins pick. If I'm the Bruins, I just to close this one up, the Florida 2027 first round pick, if that would be my preferable one to move. Like if you can get a team to bite on that, I think they'll be calling about the Toronto 26 pick more likely. But if in a perfect world, if they could hold on to that Toronto pick or trade that for like a Necas or something, or like a Kyrou, like Scott said, then that's great. But if they can use that 27 pick from Florida, that would be something. But anyway, what's next, Bridget?
I'm just gonna go to that one just because you kind of like touched on it a little bit here. But that I think we did a good job covering why that particular trade for Marco Rossi wouldn't work value-wise. So I'm sorry if we didn't like directly get to the Casey Mittelstadt part of it. We'll come back around to him because there were a few other trade proposals that included him.
Everyone wants to trade Casey Mittelstadt.
Every single trade proposal we get is like, and throw in Casey Mittelstadt. And so anyhow, we did get this question about trading for Connor McDavid. And this is from, I believe it's from YouTube, at Bruins77_7. They had asked us before about a trade for McDavid, and we didn't answer it because obviously talking about a trade for McDavid is really difficult because of how much any team would have to give up and how little it seems the Edmonton Oilers would be willing to do it for anything. Like you could trade them like the entire country of Canada. They'd be like, no. But anyway, I'll read the question.
As people always say, Wayne Gretzky got traded. If Wayne Gretzky got traded, anyone can get traded.
So, and I'm going to read this trade proposal because there's a lot included here. So Bruin77_7 asked, he says, I asked this before since you guys are taking fantasy trade signings. What about Swayman, Geeky, and Higgins, as well as 2 first-round picks, the 2026 Toronto pick and the 2027 Florida pick, so not the Bruins' own pick for the upcoming season, and trade that for McDavid? Is that too much or is that too little?
I don't know if you could put together a package that's too much. Like, if this gets me Connor McDavid, sign me up. It's a lot, but like, it's Connor McDavid. It's one of the greatest players in the history of the game, and he's still in his prime. So, yeah, like it's a lot, and you might even have to upgrade 1 or 2 of those first round picks to your own. I don't care. It's Connor McDavid. I'll give it up. See ya.
I think that to me though, the starting offer for any team in the NHL is their best player is included in this trade coming back to the Oilers, right? So, like, to me, that means Pastrnak has to be going the other way. Plus, Pastrnak plus, obviously.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. Or maybe it's McAvoy, like if you lower it at all. So yeah, that's kind of like another part of it. Is like you're in this hypothetical where somehow that trade gets you Connor McDavid. Yeah, like you're not even giving up Pastrnak or McAvoy for that matter. So all the more reason to do it. Obviously, you would love to have McDavid and Pastrnak together. And you're not giving up as much of the other stuff if you give up Pastrnak, but yeah, I mean, listen, it is all fantasy. Connor McDavid's not getting traded. I fully expect him to re-sign with Edmonton, but fun to think about.
Yeah, I feel like it would also be more of like a player decision, really. If he didn't want to go back there, then like they'd have to do something. But we listen to all the insiders like Elliot Friedman, and there's never been like really too much of a whisper of him wanting out, of them wanting to get rid of him. So
well, he opened the door with his press conference after the season, right? Like that's what a lot of this traces to, where he talks about he wants to win with Edmonton, he wants them to get there, and then throws in the whatever his exact quote was, like, but I have to do what's best for me and my family type of thing. And all of a sudden, like, that set off the alarm bells.
Yeah, any but after I want to be with Edmonton, adding any but stipulation is not good for people. Give people anxiety about it. But so would Swayman still be involved? Because I think part of this idea is that Edmonton needs a goalie. So that's probably why Swayman is considered in this idea as having value to Edmonton. But if you included him, maybe you don't include Pasta too. Maybe, maybe you do McAvoy, Swayman. I don't know. There's just, it's impossible to know. And also, if McDavid is in fact available and Edmonton is taking offers, there's going to be a lot of every other team is probably going to be trying to put together a package that they say, yeah, you know what, that's the best option. So it would be an uphill battle.
And I just think that this deal for Edmonton just sends them right to mediocrity, which is kind of a place you don't want to be. Like I think they'd still probably be a Western Conference playoff team, especially in that Pacific Division. Although that division's getting younger and more skilled, and as time goes on, the Anaheims and the San Jose's, like, they will be playoff teams. But I mean, the 2 picks, the Toronto and the Florida first, like, those are futures, right? So
and like Higgins, who they just drafted.
Higgins is a future, and then so you're really talking in Swayman, Geeky, out, McDavid. It's like they're going to a point where they're not going to be a bad enough team to suck. They'll still have Draisaitl as their number 1 center, which ironically would still be one of the best number 1 centers in hockey. That's the luxury that Edmonton has. It doesn't make sense for Edmonton. This trade package that it's fun. Yeah, it's fun to talk about. I don't see that win for the Oilers, of course.
All right. I have two, I believe, that include Mittelstadt that I'm going to go to now.
Poor Casey. No one wants to take him to the prom, huh?
Apparently not. So Marshawn fan 6363 on YouTube commented.
I think this was a Twitter one.
Oh,
I think
Twitter.
he's
Okay. Do you think the Bruins can grab Mason McTavish for Mittelstadt in Toronto's 2026 first rounder?
I mean, probably. I think the better question is, do I want to give that up for McTavish? Yeah, I mean, I like Mason McTavish, but that might be too much, honestly. Like he's a good player, but is he ever going to be more than a 60-65 point guy? Like I think he's kind of going to be another guy who's like, ideally he's probably a really good number 2 center. Which might be, if Hagens hits as your number 1, that's fine, but you might have to give up a first to get McTavish. I acknowledge that. I would be hesitant. So I guess ultimately this comes down to the Mittelstadt part of it, where you're like, do you just want to move on from him because then you're probably willing to do this? Or do you actually view him as a valuable asset, in which case this would be giving up 2 valuable assets for a guy you now have to sign to a contract, which might not make a ton of sense.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, maybe because Mason McTavish he's been out on the West Coast with Anaheim, just a little bit of background info on him. He's 22 years old, so still young, and I think that's part of where this idea comes from, trying to look for a younger guy who can come in and produce. And he was, in 2021, he was the 3rd overall pick to the Ducks. So this is somebody who was drafted high, so hence probably needing to give a first-round pick to get McTavish. But he's kind of a unique situation because correct me if I'm wrong, he's one of the few guys who's not signed yet that's an RFA left in the league, right?
Yeah, I think there's still a bunch, but
more.
yeah, he's definitely one of the most notable.
There's two on Anaheim right now that are I think it's 2 skaters, I believe, in Anaheim. You have McTavish, and then you have, to my knowledge, as of last week, Drew Hellison is an RFA.
He just signed. Yeah.
Okay, so that's taken care of. So yeah, I mean, I think that Anaheim also has nearly $20 million in cap space right now. A lot of their best players are on ELC. So if the Bruins tried to offer sheet McTavish, which they only have $2 million of their own money, so they can't, and then Anaheim would match, so it would have to be a trade. And I look at Mittelstadt, and if you look at Anaheim's lineup right now, you have Leo Carlson, you have Ryan Strome at center ice, you have Mason McTavish, you also have Roger McQueen, who's on the way. So does Anaheim see a fit for Casey Mittelstadt? Probably not, unless they want to move him to a wing. But ultimately, it's not Boston's own 2026 pick. It's the one they got from Toronto, correct? That's what the trade proposal is?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I'm listening. I'm definitely listening to that. McTavish is the one where I'm like, man, if you can do it for Florida's pick in 27, that would be ideal. I just feel like that Toronto pick the Bruins got in 26, man, unless it's for Natchez. And yeah, I think Scott could convince me on Jordan Kyrou too. I don't know if I want to. I don't know. I'm very hesitant to move outside of those 2 players or somebody better than them, which I don't think is happening.
Well, the good news is we have another Casey Mittelstadt proposal.
Oh,
maybe you like this one better.
Maybe.
So Tracy sent us an email. She says, "Hello from Canada. Not very popular to be a Bruins fan up here in Toronto, but that's just how I roll. My trade proposal is Raquel for Mittelstadt in a first rounder. If needed, retain 20% salary and throw in a lesser prospect like Merkelov. We get a 30-goal scorer with 3 years left on his contract at a very reasonable cap hit of $5 million. He won't play with Sid, so maybe he ends up at least having a 20 or 30-goal scorer. And although older at 32, would be very nice stopgap for the next few years while your prospects are developing."
I like Rickard Rakell, but I'm not giving up a first rounder for a 32-year-old. It just doesn't make sense to me with where the Bruins are right now. Like, if I can get him cheaper, sure, because I do like the player. He is a legit top 6 winger. Bruins need that, but I'm not doing it at the expense of one of my first rounders or any of their first rounders. I should
So
say.
like this is another, this is like the third of the trades that I've mentioned that involve Mittelstadt, that it's like there's always a first rounder in there too. And it's always like it's Mittelstadt plus something else, like almost like Mittelstadt is like the throwaway piece to get rid of Cap.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like, listen, like I've said it before too, like I'm down on Mittelstadt, but he is not just a throw-in in a trade like this. Like a first rounder alone might get you Rickard Rakell. And I know like you'd have to make the money work, but you got to have like a little, I mean, listen, you brought in Mittelstadt. Like you got to have a little bit of faith that you can get more out of him and make him a good, valuable player. Like if you don't believe that, then there was no point in ever getting him in the first place. So like have some faith in yourself and like show at least a little bit of faith in Mittelstadt. And like, if you still plan to ultimately move him, well, let him at least rehab his value a little bit. Like you're going to be putting him probably on your top power play unit and he's centering your second line. Like see what he does.
Yeah, I agree, Scott. That's the other part of this that is in my mind as well, is can I at least see Casey Mittelstadt in a situation where he can succeed and not have AHL wingers and have a full year under his belt where it's not just tank city in the last month of the season. Like, so I'm curious about that too. Like and also to the last thing you said, Scott, if you do still want to move him, hopefully he can increase his trade value, right? So I just think that the Bruins, unless it's for a trade that is clearly a win for the Bruins and you wouldn't lose any sleep over it, I think the Bruins would be doing themselves a disservice to trade Mittelstadt right now, because you know we talked about the idea of maybe moving him pre-draft as maybe a piece to move up in the draft to maybe get the first or second overall pick. And you know what? Ironically enough, the Bruins drafted 7th, and in my opinion, got a top 3 talent in the draft anyway. So I'm not in as much of a rush right now to move on from Mittelstadt unless it clearly makes your team better. The Rickard Rakell example, Scott, you articulated that perfectly, so I'm not going to elaborate further.
Well,
but
I just want to say I do like Rickard Rakell, but
I do too.
Age is a big problem here, and I mean, got a chance to talk to him. I'd never talked to him before, but this year at Four Nations, because he was playing for Sweden, he was over there by himself, and like they had all these little podiums, and everybody was going and talking to certain people, and obviously all the Bruins media went and talked to Elias Lindholm, but Rickard Rakell was just over there by himself, so I just went over and just talked to him for a few minutes, and he was a really nice guy. I think he'd be a good addition in that way. So those are some, I guess, intangibles that maybe are considered here. Maybe Casey Mittelstadt doesn't have the leadership intangible. Maybe Rickard Rakell does, and maybe you're valuing that. So yeah, what if it was just 1-for-1?
Well, okay, so but that changes it, right? Because like I was gonna say, Rakell is I'm sure he's a great guy to have on the team. I'm sure he's a great guy, right? But in this situation, he's 32. He's 6 years older than Mittelstadt, and you're also parting with the Bruins first with a first round pick. So so I'm not willing to give up that cost for Rakell.
Well, what if it was
in the world of 1-for-1, Bridget, you're talking Mittelstadt for Rakell? I mean, part of me still wants to see what the kid can do. I mean, when I make that trade, I got to think about it a little bit longer. He is 6 years younger than Rakell, and the Bruins aren't in a win now situation. So would the Bruins be better off holding on to Mittelstadt? And by the time that the Bruins are contending again, now Mittelstadt's 28, 29, still 3 years younger than Rakell now, and maybe he's a better producer at that point. To me, it still just seems like you're just. I don't know if the reward is worth the risk. Again, because Rakell is going to be in his mid-30s by the time you're probably contending truly again.
Yeah, I think I'd probably just take my chances with Mittelstadt too. He also plays the more valuable position as a center. And as much as we talk about career years, like Rickard Rakell just had his at age 31, 32, 35 goals, 70 points. But like the year before, he had 37 points in 70 games. Year before that, 60 and 82. Great. Year before that, he had 41 in 70 games. So like there's some inconsistency there year to year, and I think even like game to game in season, that it's like, okay, yeah, great. If you're getting the 60 to 70 point Raquel, cool. That clearly helps your team. If he comes in and he's 40 point Rickard Raquel, now you're just going like, what was the point of that? Like, we just got another underachieving top six forward. Like that, you would also have to account for that, and that's where
Who's 6 years older?
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, I'd rather just see what I have in Mittelstadt, honestly.
Okay, so every single trade I think that involved Mittelstadt, I think we said no. Right?
Let it be known, Skate Pod now officially pro Casey Mittelstadt.
Yes, so I think they were all no's. But all right, let's move on from Mittelstadt. We got 2 more questions. This one is from Kim. Kim said, "Hi guys. Dom Tiano posted a chart a few days ago that showed various team stats with Matt Poitras paired with various players from last season, including Pasta and Geeky. Granted, it's a small sample size, as Dom pointed out, but I thought it was really interesting what it showed. So, as someone that loves stats, Scott, I would love to hear your opinion on it, as well as hearing from Brian and Bridget too. My takeaway is that Poitras makes a difference when he's on the ice." That's part 1, so we'll do that first.
Yeah, so so Kim actually sent this in, I think, last week. So this was a little older one, but we just hadn't done a mailbag since then. So I have what Dom tweeted. By the way, Dominic Tiano, really good follow for like Bruins prospects, AHL guys, Canadian junior stuff. But yeah, so he put up numbers of certain players with Poitras and without Poitras. And so like Pastrnak with Poitras, 71% goals for percentage when they were on the ice together, almost 54 minutes, 66% expected goals, versus without Poitras, it was like 56% goals, 50% expected goals. Morgan Geeky had a similar jump. Obviously, Poitras would have been, if he was with Pastrnak, was often with Geeky. So I remember we talked about this during the season, and so I just want to reiterate how important context is here, because a lot of those Poitras shifts with Pastrnak and Geeky, in fact, almost all of those shifts came right after a Bruins penalty kill. And the reason that is important is because after killing a penalty, you are throwing out your best offensive players who were not killing the penalty, because the other team just used their best players on the power play. They have to roll out third and fourth liners now. So it is a prime opportunity to jump on an opponent. It's part of why you see teams get momentum from a penalty kill. Part of it is, yes, it lifts up the emotion. It gets the bench going. Part of it is you also now get to roll out your best players against their worst players, or some of their worst players. So that is the context of those shifts. So I'm not trying to totally discredit the way Poitras plays when he's out there with Pastrnak and Geeky, because we've seen it. He does play well. He's made plays to set those guys up. But context is very important. He is not playing with them when they're out against the top D pairing and the other team's top line. And I don't think he would have those results if he did.
No. And it's true. We did mention this during the season, because there were a few times where they connected for a goal. One or the other was setting the other one up between him and Pasta. And I do think they do, like, that trio passes the eye test when you see them on the ice together, in like Scott said, in that context. Because I think they're maybe potentially the three smartest playmakers, or just they have that natural ability. Something in their brain is really good at finding the seams, and they're very aware of where everyone is on the ice. Like, those are probably the 3 guys who I think have that quality the most on the team. So when you put the 3 of them out there together, they're pretty much, they're connecting on their passes. They're going to set up a scoring opportunity. And so that it could be an effective trio if that's what Kim's trying to get at. Like, hey, maybe we do want to see it a little bit more, or maybe try it, because maybe their brains they work together. They understand each other. But I do think that because of the way that Geeky and Pasta and Elias Lindholm finished the season strong, I think that's probably what you see. And Patra probably does crack the lineup. I think we all think he starts in Boston based on our depth chart that we put together after free agency. But I just don't know if he starts on the first line. I think that maybe under certain circumstances where maybe Lindholm isn't really meshing with them again, like in the beginning of the season, yeah, it's going to be hard for him to get time there, I think, with Pastrnak, though.
Yeah, it's also just a matter of he has to earn it still too. And I know that it's a small sample size that Kim references, but I think the distinction that Scott made about post penalty kill shifts is a good one to make. And ultimately, David Pastrnak has to be on a line where his center iceman is winning pucks back in the D zone and helping transition to offense. And we can say what we want about Elias Lindholm's underwhelming offensive performance last season, but he does win one-on-one battles, and he
wins face-offs.
He wins face-offs. He's good positionally. He does do little things that you don't necessarily see jump off the screen, but they do help lead to offensive transitional play. And Matt Poitras, for his size that he's continuing to work on, he's been a relatively undersized player in his time in the NHL so far, but a little bit light on his skates. With that said, I commend him because his battle effort is strong, especially for a player of his size. He plays bigger than his size. And that's him at 19 years old when he was a little bit lighter. I think as he gets older and more experienced and puts on some more weight, I do think Matt Poitras will be a player who wins far more battles than he loses. But right now, especially in a vulnerable point in the season next October, where we know the Bruins are going to really try to emphasize having a good start and try to hit the ground running, because they're going to need a good start if they want to have a good season. Because I don't think this team's going to get behind the 8 ball and have the ability to bounce back. So they're going to have to try to play from ahead. And I think that maybe going with the more safe option in Lindholm, who they know can win puck battles and whatnot, is probably where they're going to lean. And Poitras is just going to have to earn it. Not saying he won't get there, but he's just going to have to earn it from the jump, probably.
The second part of Kim's email, her second question says, not a Bruins question, but what do you think of Reeves going to San Jose? They had been doing a great job of building up their roster, but I question this move. I realize they want someone to be able to protect Celebrini and Smith, but I feel he's way past his prime, and there's no way he's going to be able to keep up with them on the same line if that's where he's placed. So Reeves got traded from Toronto in the offseason. I think he randomly just blurted it out in an interview. Like, he had just gotten traded and then went on camera. I mean, it was just like, hey, yeah, I got traded. But what do you guys think of it? I'll let you guys go first.
Yeah, I mean, for Toronto is a salary dump as much as anything. San Jose has all the cap space in the world, so they can take on salary. Yeah, I mean, look, Ryan Reeves was basically unplayable at times last season. Toronto just couldn't have him in the lineup, especially against faster opponents. Yeah, I do think he's way past his prime. Maybe he plays in San Jose. Maybe he's an extra forward. He's not going to be on a line with Mac and Celebrini or Will Smith, so you don't have to worry about that. He's going to be on their fourth line, if anything. Yeah, I think it's a player towards the end of his career. It's, someone, yeah, maybe you still admire his willingness to fight, but ultimately that. I made this point kind of about Tanner Jeannot has much more left in his game than Ryan Reeves. But the idea of having enforcers out there to protect young guys, I think it's kind of outdated, but Bruins and Sharks are two teams who have kind of done it now, and I guess we'll see. I just don't really think the game happens that way anymore. I don't think those kind of players are. I don't know if they were ever truly necessary, but they're certainly not nearly as necessary to have as they were in like the 80s or 90s.
They were never necessary?
I don't know. I mean, like, I know like Wayne Gretzky had enforcers, but like, did he need them? Like, you could go back in history and like have a debate about that.
I think you're gonna have like there's a certain generation of people who listen to this podcast who are gonna be like, "What the hell, Scott?"
Listen, I like them. Like, they were some of my favorite players as a kid. Like, PJ Stock was one of my favorite players. But again, like, I want to be clear about what I'm saying. Like, necessary. Like, was PJ Stock necessary? I think he was really entertaining, and I appreciated the hell out of everything that he did and was willing to do. But there's a difference there between like, do you need players?
I think here's the way to look at it, right? And I think there are some players that were kind of unicorns where they were that enforcer, but also could play and play at a high level. Like Milan Lucic, for example, he created a lot of space for David Krejci over the years. Now, yes, Lucic could also score, but
like Tom Wilson, maybe like Tom Wilson can kind of.
But yeah, Tom Wilson's another one. But I mean, in the case of Ryan Reeves, you're talking just a true enforcer, which because I don't want to put words in Scott's mouth. I think he's more talking just the pure enforcer. So I think the best way to answer that question would be to ask somebody that's been in the game. Did you think twice about doing something against an opponent if they had somebody on that team? Now, I know, Scott, in the case of Jeannot and in Reeves, your point is, well, Jeannot's not playing on a line with James Higgins in the future, and Reeves is not playing on a line with Celebrini. And that's true, but that doesn't mean that if somebody on the opposition cheap shots one of your best players, that the next time they're on the ice, that Jeannot or Reeves isn't hopping over the boards and meeting them, or somebody else in the team.
Matt Rempe.
Yeah, like it's not necessarily about being on the same line at the same time as something happening. It's about if something happens, well, at some point, the player who committed the infraction is going to be on the ice, and then the other team has the opportunity to put somebody on the ice to kind of make them answer or whatever. But that's the intention.
It's reactive more than proactive because I don't think having a Jeannot or a Reeves on your team stops someone from throwing a cheap shot if they're the kind of player who's going to throw a cheap shot. But you're right, like it forces them to answer for it, maybe.
Exactly.
But that ultimately didn't save your talented young player concussion.
No, of course not. No. Now, I think there's a lot of hockey fans and not just Bruins fans across the league that would say that Marty McSorley played a very important role in Wayne Gretzky's time. Certainly in Los Angeles. I mean, again, it's a different era, though. It's a totally different era. I do think, Scott, in the 80s and the 90s, I do think that it was prison yard rules at times, and it didn't matter if you were Wayne Gretzky or Marty McSorley. I do think that there was an element of needing that on a team. It's just the nature of the sport. I do think it's changed now that we're in 2025. But at the same time, like, maybe San Jose just thinks that it's good to have. Maybe Reeves is just a good pro off the ice. I don't really know.
So yeah, specifically to the Reeves question before we get to our last one, because Scott has to go. It's probably a better landing spot for him than being in Toronto because it seemed like he really wasn't. His time kind of run out there. Maybe he gets more playing time because of the nature of the kind of team he's going to, being a team that's kind of building up. And maybe he can play a role there on the fourth line and just be a little added entertainment value. But yeah, so I think probably good for him, probably the right move for Toronto. So maybe he'll be able to reclaim a little bit for another year of his career out in Anaheim.
Well, he was getting some heat too because he was asked on a podcast about how he gave Mitch Marner some advice about going to Vegas, and he just said, I was just honest with them, like, Vegas is a great place to play. Awesome hockey market now, less pressure than Toronto, and it was some of the best times of my professional career. And that was while he was still a member of the Maple Leafs, that he gave that info to Marner. But people tried to link those things as to why he got traded. I don't think that's necessarily why. I think it's because, to Scott's point, it was a cap dump and everything, and he's not really helping them on the ice.
All right, I don't think we have time for this last question because Scott has.
No, we do. We can do it. Like, it's a quick one.
Okay. All right. I'll read it real quick. Roger says, hi, folks. I know you don't spend a lot of time talking about Bruins prospects outside of draft time. But I'm curious what the goaltending pipeline looks like for the team. They let Brendan Bussey go to Florida, and they gave Michael DiPietro an NHL contract. If they trade Korpisalo to give DiPietro a chance in the NHL, what does the pipeline look like after that? Thank you.
So it's pretty thin. It's they have goalies to fill in Providence. So they did sign Simon Zajíček out of the Czech Republic, who had a very good season over in the Czech Pro League. He is ticketed for Providence. We'll get a shot there. And then they also signed one of their minor moves in free agency, Luke Kavalin. And he also 24 years old, like Zajíček. He had a really good season in the ECHL last year for Montreal's ECHL team, Trois Rivières. Hopefully my French is okay there. But he so he led them to the ECHL title, started 20 playoff games, had like a 948 save percentage or something. So he's probably going to get a shot in Providence as well. So that fills out your Providence roster. And then they'll bring in whoever to fill ECHL spots. And then really outside of the professional ranks, the only one in the pipeline is Philip Svedbak, Providence College's goalie. So
yeah, and he's supposed to go back for another year. So I don't think he's going to be he's not going to be available immediately this season.
Right.
Unless, we're talking about in the spring for whatever reason they need him in the spring, but probably not. So probably won't see him this year. And the only other person that I want to mention, because I've mentioned him before, Albin Boya came to camp. He's a undrafted free agent, so he doesn't belong to anyone, but the Bruins have interest in him. He's the goalie at UMaine. Thought he had a good season last year. I think he's somebody that they're interested in, but they'll have to, once he decides to hang it up at Maine, which I believe he is expected to play another season at least, he's somebody that maybe they reach back out to and they say, hey, we're interested in bringing you in. They sign him as an undrafted free agent. I think he'd be a good addition to the pipeline. So that could be a fit there too.
If he has another season like his last season at Maine, then there will be a lot of competition, because even this year there was a lot of interest and he decided to go back. Yeah,
he won the Hockey East Championship. He was great in the playoffs, including the NCAA tournament. I really like him as a person too. He's a nice kid. And I've never heard anyone say a single bad thing about this kid. So he would be a good get if you could.
All right. I think that does it for this episode. Thank you all for sending your questions. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you later in the week. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.